Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli. Welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. It is my intention with this video to give you what you'll need to make the most of the stars this month. There will be challenges, and I will offer information on how you can make the most of those, and there will be sweet spots, and I will give you dates and all the things that you need to make the most of those. So definitely also check out anniehelpsyou.com for more free resources and all kinds of other things to help you on your starry journey. If you are in resonance with how I teach and you want to learn, then you can also check out at anniehelpsyou.com my astrology apprenticeship program. Definitely go to radicalprayerbook.com to check out my new book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, which is a book of radical prayers and affirmations that will help you create the life of your dreams. It is an Amazon bestseller, and it is a beloved companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, or so I have heard from many people. So what is in the stars for you this month? Hello Libra friends, welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. October is a wild month in the way that it is split with energies that are completely different, dividing it just about in half. So until around October 12th, we are ending out the phase that started in the beginning of, or in the middle of August, where we're completely free of personal planet retrogrades. And when we have that going on, that is the time to push things out in the world. So to make big decisions, to have launches, to bring things out there, to have clarity, to make big moves. And, you know, there's this window where when you're launching your boat out, it's like the tides are going out, that the tides are supporting pushing off of the island. Now, as of around October 12th, every day that we move towards October 31st, when Mercury goes into retrograde, we're actually having the tides start to come in. And as the tides come in, they can bring wonderful things with them. Retrogrades are wonderful. I do not subscribe to the idea that retrogrades are bad. They can be chaotic, they can be confusing, they can test things, and they can be challenging in certain ways. But at the same time, if you just imagine within the tides coming in, things that you worked on can be brought to you in a wonderful way. And I really do like to give you the imagery of the idea of like a spider. So there are two types of transits that I like to use the spider analogy. One is with eclipses, which we had a few months ago, and we're not in that phase now. But eclipse time and retrograde time are both times when we have woven our web. Then we stay close and see what comes in. Let the food come to you. So it's not the time to push out and go, make the web and, do all of this stuff and go out. It's the time to bring closer in and see what comes to you. Now, that being said, it can be a time of prolific creativity, the retrograde. So you can be doing that, but it's more a time for creating and having it just be right here in your space around you, and not necessarily as much like pushing it out for everyone to see, but creating it for you to see it in front of you and work with it. So every day that we move past October 12th towards October 31st, it's like moving into a cave that goes inward and backwards. And so you get further from the sunlight and more into that internal space the closer we get to October 31st. Then it's retrograde from October 31st to November 20th. Then the post-transit shadow period goes through December 9th. So all in all, this major Mercury and Scorpio focus, this major internal inside and backwards focus is occurring over this period of time. And we're just starting to get warmed up here in October, but the beginning part is like open for all of these things to push out. Anything that was pushed out may be tested during these retrogrades and may be refined or redone or edited or added to, which is totally fine. It's a normal part of the rhythm. So this month is full of opportunities for transformation within yourself and within all of your relationships. And specifically, Libra placements are going to have lots of challenges and opportunities that come from the me versus we spectrum. Okay, so things with your individuality and your self-sufficiency are really being called into focus versus other people, other resources, other people's money, your spouses, the government, taxes, like all of those things are coming in. So yourself versus others, yourself versus other entities, and your combination of how you integrate that space between those two places. Part of why this is coming up as a strong theme this month is because the planet Uranus, which is still moving through the partnership energies for Libra, can be bringing jolts and volatility and challenges and upheavals, but also surprising things that come out of the blue in a good way into the relationship space. So as the personal planets, which are the ones closer to us, so the Sun, and Mercury, and Venus, and Mars, as they move into Scorpio, then they are going to oppose this planet Uranus. And their movement in the Scorpio realm has to do more with your image of yourself, your individual finances, your self-sufficiency, your personal individual experience, and how it's just yourself, basically, yourself and your stuff versus other people and their stuff, and how you navigate between all of that. So this is a huge theme that's going to come up. And it's going to come up in ways that are jolting and exciting and can bring, amazing breakthroughs and amazing insights, but they can also bring things that are unsettling, things that are jostling. So just expect that those things are going to be very likely. There are also going to be squares with Pluto, Saturn, and the transiting South Node. And for Libra placements, this is going to bring in the storyline of home and family. The energy of home and family can have anything to do with any family member. Your relationship with any family member can have to do with real estate. It can have to do with your geography. It can have to do with home-based projects, houses, or it can have to do with your inner world. The fourth house relates to your childhood psychology, and these lords of karma that these squares are occurring with are also talking about the history of what brought you up to this very moment. Because if you look back at your life, things tend to be cyclical. If you look back at history, things tend to be cyclical. And so there are rhythms at play that keep manifesting. And so the things that come up now can make you really realize that, wow, even though if there's a new story that's happening right now, the stuff that you're worried about, the stuff that's bothering you, the hassles that are happening, and even the joyous celebrations, the things that are working out well for you. There are certain patterns in your life where there have been themes that have been present with how you feel. Everything goes back to the feeling space. So opportunities with healing, childhood, past life, ancestral karma are going to come up. And the aspect that they're coming up in is a square. So the square is going to bring challenges. But I don't see that as a bad thing. Again, it is going to be stressful for many people. So I won't sugarcoat that there. But sometimes the stress is what we need to push through, to crack the matrix, to have a different experience. So home and family, inner psyche, inner child world is going to be coming up very strongly. And also some things having to do with other relationships like siblings. I mean, really any relationship is open to have things come up. But also things with siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, etc., etc. And then also things having to do with mobility, so cars, your physical mobility, devices, communication, whether it's a communication device or whether it's how you communicate with other people. Unfortunately, most people have had violence woven into their speech patterns, because when we're imprinted as children, even if our parents were great, many people don't think that their parents were great. Many people do think that their parents were great. It doesn't really matter from the perspective of imprinting, in the way that violence can come through the language just with agitation. If somebody is overwhelmed, a parent is overwhelmed, their angst, their stress gets woven into their speech patterns, which get imprinted upon the child, which get woven into their speech patterns, and then they have those dynamics with other people. So there turns out to be a lot of that negative, violent imprinting in the speech, even something that someone could say a word and say, well, what? Like maybe you'll say something and someone will say, get all mad about it, and you'll be like, well, I just said this. Well, the truth is that you didn't just say that. The things that you didn't say, the speech pattern, the things that you may have been thinking, the things you may have been feeling, all get woven into that. And this truth becomes very important at this time for Libras because communication energies are being brought up in a bigger way. So if you really want to be raw and honest with yourself, if you think that the way people are treating you or speaking to you is not with respect, really try to get raw with how you are speaking. And one really great resource for that is a book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, which can give great insights into how we tend to speak in a way that gets us further from the things we want. So that being said, this month can bring you closer to the things you want by showing you the things that are standing between you and the things you want. So that's exciting. So I do have other things I want to share with you about this month and more details for Libra. I am an astrology teacher, and that is my main focus. So I like to show you the charts and show you, give you some astrology lessons here, and also in the meantime, go into how these energies may manifest for you this month and how you can best use them. Okay, so many of the things I talk about will be true for all Libra placements, but there will be parts where I will separate out depending on your section of Libra. So let's see where you're at. Early Libras are pretty much the September born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle, October 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late, October 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. If you're watching for your moon in Libra or Libra rising, this is for you equally. Each of the sun charts, moon charts, rising charts are all windows we look out of to see the total astrological picture. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just show you visually some of the things I talked about, and then I want to talk about the sweet aspects of this month. We focused a lot on the challenges because there are going to be a lot of aspects that are definitely going to show up as stressors. But again, as I reframed that, as I said, I reframe this as something positive, ultimately, especially if you do something with it. But now, after I show you the visuals on the things we talked about, I want to show you and talk more about the very sweet aspects that we have. Okay, so we talked about this energy of me versus we showing up in a big way for Libras, and that is because as these planets in Libra move into this second house, or for those of you who are middle and late, you might feel this in the 1st and 7th, but either way, the 1st and the 2nd are me houses, and the 7th and the 8th are we houses. So as these planets, whether they're here or here, are opposing this energy with Uranus, whether it's 7th or 8th, it's still bringing about that opposition, that pull between self and other people. And as I always talk about with these aspects, it definitely can access your superhero self, because if you're being pulled in two different directions, sometimes the answer is to just have all your balls up in the air and just keep juggling. You know, you just kind of have more balls keep going in and you just keep juggling. So sometimes you can access parts of yourselves with the stressors that can be very beneficial. Okay, so it's not just the 1st and 2nd and 7th and 8th houses that are bringing up the me-we polarity. It's actually the signs of the planets at play. So we have Taurus, which is funny, right? Because Taurus rules over here. So that is being pulled in again. And then Libra and Scorpio energies rule these houses. So the houses and the signs are all talking about this you versus relationship and you in relationship. Okay, so I want to give you just a quick visual about how the charts change as you move on in the sign. Like if you're in the early or middle or late degree placements, you can see for the early degree placements, this planet Uranus is in the 8th house. For the middle degree placements, some of you are going to have it in the 8th, but some of you are going to have it in the 7th. And for the late degree placements, it drops back. So you can see late degree, your Uranus placement is still here. So this is, Placidus charts are different than whole house astrology. Whole house astrology would say that all of the placements have the planets in the same house. And I definitely am not going to diminish the value of different types of astrology because I believe all of them have value, and I actually believe all of them are true at the same time. They're just different complex layers of the total truth. But in the Placidus charts, you can see that outer planets especially stagger tremendously for you late degree placements. So while they might be talking about, you know, a planet shifting into another house and bringing all this energy to this different house when it changes signs, if you're at the end of the sign, you might have a while before you get the blessings, opportunities, challenges that come along with that from the Placidus perspective. The other things we talked about was the squares that were taking place here as the planets are moving through Libra. And particularly this month, we're actually talking about the Sun and Mars, because Venus and Mercury already made squares to these three, the Titans, the Lords of Karma. See, these are at 13, 14, and 20 degrees. So when these planets, Mercury and Venus, earlier, like in September, got to those points, 13, 14, and 20, they made squares here. And now, as the Sun and Mars go through 13, 14, and 20 degrees of Libra, they will now make squares with these Lords of Karma. So some of those challenges with your authentic being versus, you know, a stern authority, or you trying to express yourself versus how other people think things should be done. These themes have been going through September and are going to come up again with these aspects here. We also talked about how the fourth house is coming up. The fourth house, all of these houses, these pie pieces, are fields of experience that we have as humans. So as the planets move through these placements or these houses, they bring situations that relate to those areas of life. So you can see the early degree placements really have the fourth house as these squares come, and plus just the transits of these planets there. The middle degree placements, you can see, this is what I was talking about before, how in the Placidus system, these are staggered. So middle degree placements have been dealing with Pluto in the fourth house. And so as these planets, the Sun and Mars, come and square, that fourth house is going to be coming up strongly for the middle degree placements too. And even see how for many of you middle degree placements, this Saturn is on the line between the third and fourth house. So as the aspects come here and square that Saturn, they will also be having lessons in the fourth house. And then you can see that also for the late degree placements, even though all of these are really more in the third house, this is close enough to send whispers to this fourth house, which has to do with the home and family and inner psychology and genealogy and all those things I talked about in the section before I put the charts. So even your late degree placements are, that fourth house is still factoring in for you, but the parts that I talked about with the third house are actually even more relevant for you. And this has to do with the communication. See, the third house of communication is really lit up by those squares for you late degree placements and for you middle degree placements, whereas for the early degree placements, none of this is happening in your third house. You have other things going on in your third house. You have Jupiter there and other things going on as well. So, you know, the houses at play are the same for all of you placements, but the reasons and the stories can be different. So the counterbalance to these challenges that we've outlined here come in the form of a massive amount of sweet energy as well. The aspects this month are pretty balanced. They're about even as far as challenging aspects to sweet aspects. But between the 13th of October and the 25th, we have a string of awesome aspects. And from the 15th through the 25th, they're actually pretty uninterrupted. Whereas, like in the first couple of weeks of the month and then the last, you know, almost week of the month, there are sweet and salty aspects that, you know, conflict with one another. But there's more challenges in the first part and the last part. But this sequence, you know, this string of time between the 15th and 25th, we've got a string of sweet aspects. And since Mercury retrograde is pending and it's getting closer with every day within those days I just listed, blessings from the past are more likely. So we can see that as these planets get into Scorpio and they come here, okay, so just imagine, they're moving along, and then when they come here and they hit those same Lords of Karma we talked about with the challenging aspects, now through Scorpio, they're going to make 60-degree angles. Okay, so the same thing, you know, this is the same thing we talked about here. So the same challenging aspects. So for the early, it's the 4th house and the 2nd house that this is occurring. For the middle, it's the 3rd and 4th. And then like the 1st and 2nd is where these things will be in Scorpio. And then for the late, it's the 3rd house, and then really like the 1st and a little bit of the 2nd too. So these are 60-degree angles, and 60-degree angles are wonderful angles. So there may be conflicts that come in those arenas that we discussed, but equally as likely are sweet outcomes. Now, the 60-degree angle is the one we talk about every month because inevitably there's going to be 60-degree angles, and it's important to understand what we're working with here. So a 60-degree angle is a wonderful, sweet aspect. Sometimes it can bring nice things just for no reason, or things you've worked on in the past. But very often the 60-degree angle is the angle of the pie ingredients on the counter. The pie dish, the apples, there's the flour and the stuff to make it or whatever. Okay, so you have all the ingredients to do something, but often you have to actually activate it. So 60-degree angle is the story of where we say, where's my pie? And the answer is, well, you have to make it because the ingredients are here. So the 60-degree angles will bring opportunities to revitalize your image, your health, your finances, your home and family relationships, your living circumstances, your communication, basically relationships with everybody. There's beautiful alchemy present and opportunities. You just have to take them. So you don't want to let them slide by you. So these are the things most on my mind for you this month. If you'd like to get even more details about this month, then definitely check out my video called October 2019 Must-Knows for All Signs, because I go into the general transits and other aspects about the month that will help to bring you more understanding of the energies at play so that you can make the most of them. So definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, which will give you access a month ahead to a written version of the general transit so that you have those dates and all that information for your planning. Definitely, if you're interested in learning more about astrology, you can check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course. And if you want to go deeper, if you think I go into details in the videos, you should see my Astrology Apprenticeship program. So you can see more about that and my other vocational assistance, including a Creating Successful Online Business course. You can check all of that out at AnnieHelpsYou.com. Definitely go to my husband's website, B.R. Newman, which is IamHelios, IamHelios.com. And definitely pick up my book, Radical Prayer. Transform your life in the world in 28 days. You can go to radicalprayerbook.com or search for Radical Prayer and Annie Botticelli on Amazon. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month.